Shalom. First off, I'd like to give an all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Yahweh, who the world didn't really calls God. All right, in the name of Yahweh Shai, who the world didn't really calls Jesus Christ. Secondly, I'd like to give a double honor to the apostles and elders of Green Millstone who rule well, who continue to teach us this truth. Salutations to you, Akim, out there doing the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai sincerely. All right, this is the brother Chakam, and we're coming at you with another lesson, man, another glass of milk. And now, this glass of milk is a simple question. Who is the enemy? All right, and I'm going to spoil it for you right in the beginning, man. The enemy is the so-called white man. All right, that's who the enemy is. The enemy of the Israelites is the so-called white man, and it's a hatred that these nations have for each other. All right, the nation of Edom, which is the nation of the so-called white man, and the nation of Israel, which is you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and the people that descend from them. There is a fight, all right? There is a dislike, there is a hatred that's attached to these two nations, man. All right? And it's been since the womb, since the birth of our forefathers, man. All right? So without further ado, let's get to the scriptures. This is Job chapter 9, verse 24, and it says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right, so who is the wicked, man? All right, the wicked is the man who's in charge right now, man. All right, the nation that's in charge right now. And one nation is in charge of everything and anything and everything, man. It's the so-called white man. The white man is in charge of literally everything. Anything important, the white man has his fingers and his whole feet in it, man. He has his whole body in it, man. He is in it. He is completely submerged in anything that has any relevance. Anything from geopolitics to economics to how society runs, all right, to anything, man. The so-called white man is in there. Why? Because ultimately this is his kingdom. This is the second horn, or the second phase, you should say, of the Roman Empire, man. This is the continuation of the Roman Empire, rather. All right? So just as the Romans were in power, the so-called white man right now, in the second half of the Roman Empire, man, he is in power, man. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, man. That's the wicked, the so-called white man. It says, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof, man. So he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. What is that talking about, man? That's talking about how the so-called white man engaged in something called iconoclasm, man, which means the destruction of photos, destruction of pictures, destruction of icons, all right? The so-called white man has the whole world believing that the angels, alongside the men of the Lord, and even more so, who the world didn't really calls Jesus Christ, whose name is Yahweh Shai in the Hebrew, are so-called white men, man. And that cannot be further from the truth, man. That cannot be further from the truth. But guess what? The wicked does that, man. They covereth the faces of the judges thereof, man. And the scriptures goes on to say, if not, where and who is he? So if it's not this man, then who is it, man? It's the so-called white man. This is Psalm chapter 83, verse 1 through 6, and it says, keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be still, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they hate thee, and they hate that thee have lifted up the head. The head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones, all right? So this is talking about a conspiracy, man. This is talking about conspiracy of what? Of nations that are against the Lord's people, man. That's why it says they have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Who are the Lord's people, man? According to the scriptures, you know, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, man, thou art a holy people unto me. Roughly paraphrasing, man. All right, we are a holy people unto the Lord, man. We are a separate people unto the Lord. The Lord has set us apart, man. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and the people that descend from them, man. The Lord has set us apart. And these people have taken a crafty counsel against us, man. These people have conspired. These other nations have conspired, man. To do what? Let's read on. It says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the nation of Israel may be no more in remembrance. All right. And that's exactly what they did, man. That's why we don't know. That's why 2/3 of our people don't know who they are, man. That's why our people in general don't know who they are, man. That's why we didn't even know who we were. You know, luckily the Lord had mercy upon us, man. But we didn't know that we were Israelites. And that's all by design, man. So they were successful in that aspect. But guess what? They weren't fully successful because the Lord always leaves a remnant out, man. If you read anything in the scriptures, you notice that the Lord always has a remnant. He always has a select few, man. It says, for they have consulted together with, they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. All right. So these nations ultimately are against you, man. Starting with who? The Edomites, you so-called white people, man. The nation of Edom. And this is the first one that the scripture names. It says the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes. Salakia. So these are your enemies, man. These people have made it their objective to ensure that you do not know that you are the Lord's chosen people, man. That you are the Lord's, that the Lord looks like you, man. That you look like the Lord. That the Lord is a so-called black man, man. They have deliberately made a consulted and combined effort to keep that information from you. Why? Because they know, all right, they know that they have a limited time, man. This is Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, which is located in the Apocrypha. All right, for those of you who don't know, real quick, the Apocrypha is a set of books that were actually removed from the original Bible. But when you go into the King James 1611 version of the Bible, these books are actually in there, and these books hold vital key information when it comes down to history. All right, there's a lot of history in these books, as well as a lot of wisdom. All right, and this chapter, Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, in the Bible, all right, is very similar to the book of Proverbs, where it imparts a lot of wisdom. All right, so just needed to give that quick disclaimer just in case anyone new is watching it and doesn't really know what book I'm reading from. All right, that is the case, that this particular scripture comes from the Apocrypha. All right. So this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10, and it says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. All right, so never trust your enemy, man, because just like how iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, man. All right, it says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass. In other words, though he humble himself, man, though he's saying that he's your friend, he's your ally, he supports, people of color and all this other buzzwords and things that, the so-called white man says to try to get near you. Don't trust him, man. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed, all right, and beware of him. All right, when you tell someone to beware, what are you telling them? You're telling them to be careful. It says to beware of this man. All right, and it says, thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not altogether wiped away. Salakia. So this man, all right, his rust is one of these things, man, that you can't really, once something has rust on it, you really can't get away from it, man. And that's how this man's wickedness is. This man's wickedness is akin to rust. You could treat something for rust and all that, and guess what? It'll still come back. That's how the so-called white man's wickedness is, man. All right. This is Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5, and it reads, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. All right. So ultimately, we know who the wicked is because of who hates us, man. Who has that perpetual hatred? The nation of Israel. has that perpetual hatred, man. And it's been since the beginning. In fact, when the Babylonians, also known as the Chaldeans, when they came and they overtook and they besieged Jerusalem, all right, ballpark, 530 BC, all right, under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar II, guess what, man? Esau was right there helping, man. Esau was right there contributing to the pain, contributing and cheering, man, for the beseech of our people. Why? Because ultimately, the so-called white man is the enemy of the nation of Israel. The so-called white man hates the nation of Israel, man. But guess what, man? We hate you too, man. We hate you too. And according to the scriptures, man, you're going into slavery, man. This is Amos chapter 1, verse 11, and this is the last scripture. And it says, "Thus saith the Lord, for three transgressions of Edoms, and for four I will not turn away the punishment thereof. Because he did pursue his brother with his sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever." All right, and forever does not mean for a little while. Forever literally means forever, man. It said that he kept his wrath forever. And ultimately, this quarrel between the forefather of the so-called white man and the forefather of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, who are biblically known as the Israelites, this beef, as you would call it, all stems from what? We're going to get into it in a separate lesson. But essentially, it all stems from Esau being a carnal person and selling his birthright. All right? Selling his birthright. That's what it comes from, man. It comes from Esau being carnal and trading his birthright for a morsel of food, man, a morsel of bread. So he sold his birthright, man, for some bread. That's why this beef stands for, man. And guess what? It's a never-ending hatred that the so-called white man has for the nation of Israel. All right? So this was another quick lesson, man. Glass of milk, number 6. Who is the enemy, man? And by the end of this lesson, you know that the enemy is a so-called white man. All right? So I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Once again, double honor to the apostles and elders of the great millstone who rule well. And the salutations to you, Akim, out there doing the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai sincerely. Until next time, Shalom. I hope this lesson was edifying for anyone, any new brothers that's coming in, man, or anyone who's interested in learning. All right? And until next time, Shalom.